Hello there, and welcome to my little arty corner on YouTube. My name's Angela Porter, and I like to draw. I'm an artist. I'm most known for my adult colouring books, which are many now, and can be found on my Amazon author page. Colour Me series with Lacey Mucklow, but also various books for Creative Haven in particular, as well as other publishers over the past several years. But my YouTube channel is about encouraging you to just draw for fun, draw without any expectation of something that could hang on a wall, just draw for pleasure. And sometimes to do that, we need a little bit of help with structure or with shapes and breaking things down into simple steps, because my art style is very much whimsical and quite stylized, and it looks complicated, but everything is built up really quite simply, one step at a time. And if you've been with me over the last couple of days, and I thank you very much for that, or the last couple of videos, you've seen that I've been drawing mushrooms, fungi, and having a lot of fun with them. And you can see part of each of the days. This was not the last video, the video before, and this one here was the last video, and I've added a bit more colour to these and tried to do something about the stems and not really succeeded very well. Time to scan this in and reproduce it digitally, I think, possibly. And then under here I've got a big sheet, an A4 sheet of blank paper, because it's Wednesday and it happens to be the 30th of March. March is nearly gone, can you believe it? Tomorrow's the last day of March. Absolutely, I don't know how time flies by. But before I make a start, very quickly, I'd just like to say thank you so much. If you've subscribed to my channel, I appreciate you very much. If you've given me a thumbs up for any of my videos, thank you so much for that as well. And what else was I going to say? If you've shared my videos or left a lovely comment, I appreciate that so much as well. I really, really do. And I'm just so glad that so many of you are leaving messages to say how helpful they find the videos and how much that you're drawing along with me and having a go. And as I say, practice doesn't make perfect, but practice does make better. The more you do, the more comfortable you'll feel, and you'll find your way of drawing things. I show you my way. Work on how you would like to do it for yourself. So this big piece of paper here is for this week's colouring templates for the Angela Porter's Colouring Book Fans Facebook group members. Yeah, somebody set up a fan page and got me involved. That's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say. But I thought I'd make use of these funky fungi in this week's colouring template. Now I'm not going to use the super thick pen. The pencil, well, I don't know, the pencil brush pen actually works quite nicely, so I think I will. It's got to that point where the lines are pretty consistent, although I can get them thicker or thinner if I wish. So I'm going to make use of mushrooms, and I am going to do a landscape drawing this week. But the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start making a bottom for them, a ground for them. And for grounds, I do like foliage and perhaps some flowers. So it could be all kinds of botanicals this week, perhaps. Maybe with a couple of other things put in. Somebody suggested bugs. We'll see about that one. I don't know. I do like drawing insects and making them quite whimsical. So I'm going to start in this corner. I often start in the bottom left. And I'm going to draw some shapes that could be like curled up ferns, because I just love this. I love spirals. What is it about spirals? Spirals, I've said this before, but if you haven't visited my channel, that they exist in the earliest kinds of human created art that exist, rock carvings and rock paintings and so on. And there's something about spirals and circles and curves and arches that has fascinated humanity for hundreds of thousands of years. Perhaps it's because these shapes are so prevalent in nature. Yeah, these remind me of ferns that are all nicely curled up, ready to open. Mine are a bit squarer and a bit more fanciful perhaps than the ferns we know. Now this stem would come down and under here, so that's exactly what I'm going to do and make it join there. Sometimes people, I do make people think about work. Now this one, my art, how you colour it, this one, it looks like there's a stem here, so I'm going to follow this up and I'm going to add another one here perhaps, which that stem then will happily join onto, just like that. Well, actually like that. And then this space I'm just going to leave it empty, but I am going to close it because there's something about, I feel happy excuse me, I feel happier with my art when I've got a definite edge to it, even if things spill over it. It's like having that enclosed space. It's like framing. I don't do a frame all the time, though there's space around this paper to do it. Sometimes I put a frame in. I'm just adding little bits of black to where these connect to, the spirally bit connects to the stem. So I just think that just adds that little bit of interest and a little bit of contrast there. So perhaps I'll do just one more here, maybe. Comes down here. And that's nice because that little bit there that I used to darken the, to pop where the spirally bit meets the stem, meets the ground there. So that's quite nice. Part of me thinks that would be good filled in black, but I'm going to leave it and let people make their own choices about that. Oh, I'm also going to add a little bit of black just where these meet as well. I end up with my work looking a bit like stained glass when I do this, and that makes me smile. It's not meant to be stained glass, but you know how the lead in stained glass is soldered together and you get those thicker areas? I've done that since forever with my art. Well, at least 20 odd years, perhaps longer. Okay, so I've got some stuff going on here, but I don't want to fill the whole bottom with the same thing. I want to vary it, but I may do some more of these over in the right hand corner, but I'm going to work my way across and see what happens. So I think what I'll do here is a stem, and I'm going to pop a shape like that on the end and just do, well, essentially these are letter J's without the dot or without the bar on the top, or L's. And eventually they make, if you ignore the stem in the middle, you end up with heart shapes, because I am vaguely connecting them behind here as if they're connected underneath. So we've got ferns ready to open, and we'll have a couple of ferns perhaps opened. I don't want to take up too much space with these because I want mushrooms growing at the top of them. We're going to have giant mushrooms, because in my little world, my whimsical world, my entangled world, I call it entangled because my work can get very intricate, all entangled and lovely. Right, let's have one that just dips down here, and we'll touch the ground. It'll spill over the edge a little bit, and I am turning my paper here just to make sure that I can draw comfortably and not smudge what I've just done. So these pens can take a little while to dry fully, so I am just aware of that. but I'm also where I like to draw comfortably as well. Now there's no space underneath there for me to pop another one in, but that's no problem, because what I'll do is I'm going to pop some seeds in under there possibly. Just to fill that space nicely, as if there's something underneath there. They could be seeds, they could be little pebbles, and I have got a couple of finer pens out here, so I can use these to add some shadows and perhaps some details to these. Don't do too much when it's a page for colouring, because depends what medium people use, and it can be a bit off-putting, but people can always add their own, you know? So that looks quite nice. I think here is where I'm going to have my first mushroom growing. I'm sorry, I've got loads of pens, they're going to rattle around here. And I think I'm going to go with putting perhaps the stem in first, so I know where that is. You won't see the bottom of the stem because it's behind all of these, but I'm going to do this just a curved line here, because I can add the other bits and curve around there and join them like so. So we've got the stem disappearing into the cap, and then I'm going to add the cap to the mushroom. And here I've put like a little, waved in a little bit here and here to give like a different shape to the top. Now I do want to add those gill lines in here, and I am going to add a border here, and I think I'll make this one stripy because stripes are so much fun. On the possibilities of using complementary colours or harmonious colours, choice is everybody's. I love a bit of brightness though. And I'll just add the gills behind, like so. Try not to pack them in too tightly, because I know there are some colourists who would colour each of those areas a different colour, or alternate the colours rather than treat them as one whole thing. Again, it's personal choice, personal preference. I am though going, I said not a lot of detail, but I am going to just put that suggestion of a shadow in here on this side and a little bit on this side. I'm not going to do anything with the stripes on this one. I say that, but I rather like having perhaps some arches in here. So this one can come down like that and up. And I will go and fill those little spaces in there. Use a thicker pen. I always say this, and again, if you've heard it before, I make no apologises for repeating it. But if you've got areas to fill in and it would take you ages with a fine point pen, don't use a fine point pen. Use a thicker pen to do that. So here we go with this. And I think because I've done arches here, I think I'm going to do some in this one as well. But I think the very top of the mushroom is going to be, well, I guess akin to these. And I'm making no attempt to match these up in any way, the little arches above, because I want it to be that kind of random. Again, I'm going to get my thicker pen just to fill these in with. Just takes a little less time. Unless, of course, you enjoy colouring in with a fine point. I don't. So we've got that. And then perhaps I'm going to put these at the top as if there's perhaps some, the arches sort of joined together up here. I think I needed to bend these lines a bit more, but you get the idea. So that's already looking quite cute and lovely. Tea. Still tea time, morning tea. Okay, so let's carry on with this, or shall I pop another? I think I might pop another mushroom in here because I can get a nice, perhaps a thin stemmed one in here. And I'm going to give it one of these little frilly collars that you sometimes get with them. And let's have one that goes up like so, I think. I will make it that kind of shape, but I do want to give that an edge as well. And then a shape like that behind, I think. Which way do I want them to overlap? Would that make sense? Yeah. It does now. And then this line needs to come down here because it needs to finish somewhere. So that's quite nice. And again, I'll get a finer pen. And we're going to add some gills in here. But I'm going to make these a little bit different to others I've done, where I'm putting like shapes in the middle of the line. These are sort of almost rice, grains of rice shape, or little leaves, or pointy ovals. I'm trying to vary where these are, but I tend to get stuck in popping them in at the same height without thinking. So fortunately I've left enough space between them to actually go back and add some in at different heights and levels. And although I'm only putting one of these on each of the lines, there's nothing to stop you putting more than one there, or choosing a circle instead of these. Again, it's just a bit of difference going on here. And I will just add some shadow lines. And I'm just going to sharpen the tops of these wavy lines. And we'll add some shadow down the side, a little bit here, here and there. And behind the leaf here, there will be shadow there. So we'll just add that in. So that's quite nice. I like that. And I think here I'm going to have kind of filled up fern, but I've got it more of a triangular shape than a circular shape. Because who says you can't have triangular shaped filled ferns or leaves or other growing thing? And it just adds that bit of variation again. I also like to put a shape at the end of these, the inner spiral, just to bring your attention to it, that focal point, as if to say this ends here. And it's almost like it's so small, it's got so tight, it's almost in shadow as well. In there, the furling of the leaf. Love that word, furl. Leaves furl, you can have furled flags. That's alliteration, which I also like very much. Okay, so I want some more foliage before I draw the next the next mushroom, and I've got an awkward shape here to pop foliage in, so I'm going to go with a Zentangle pattern called Flux. Basically teardrop shaped leaves, and I'm adding a little bit of interest to them. Those circles, and I'd be happy to add colour to them, and I think most people would, but I also say if an area to add colour to is too small, just treat the whole area, the whole thing, as if it's one. Just don't worry about making it different. It's just then like a pattern drawn in the leaf rather than something that's a different colour. Though I think you'd be able to get a gel pen in there, or a pencil, or even a fine paintbrush. I think this is why I draw my designs for colouring pages out on paper. Whether I sketch it in pencil and then scan it in and redraw digitally, or whether I draw the originals in ink like this one on paper, because I get that sense of scale. I lose that sense of scale when I draw digitally, because you can zoom in, zoom out, twist and turn the paper bits, zooming in and zooming out. And because I work zoomed in, I think I'm drawing something that is big enough to be coloured, but actually it's not. And it doesn't matter if I put a grid on the page, that helps a little bit, but not much, and I can get carried away with detail rather than the bigger picture, the overall picture in view. Whereas with paper in front of me, I can see exactly what it's going to look like when it's reproduced. And I usually actually, if I'm going to draw it digitally, I work at a smaller size than it's going to be reproduced, which sounds mad, but it means that I really don't get too detailed and too fine detailed. When I make it bigger to redraw it digitally, then I get bigger spaces. So just the way I work. I wouldn't draw in pen smaller and then expand it, because that would make a mess of the lines and things, the way that things get made bigger digitally. You get weird things happening. But other than that, it works. It works as far as I'm concerned. Works quite happily for me. So for this one, I'm going to do, and yeah, I'm putting lumps and bumps in. That's because I want to have, I'm going to have some pattern on the top of this one. And I want that pattern to be very dimensional, so I'm going to put some of them in here. So that we have them appearing as if they're sticking out from just around the edge, as well as sticking up into the air. So it's not the usual big absolute circle. Shaped sort of like whimsical fairy mushrooms that we see. These are more irregular shapes and more like the actual mushroom that the fairy mushrooms are based on, which is fly agaric. And Amanita muscaria, I think is its Latin name, its scientific name. And that'll do nicely. Now I am going to, though I haven't done this elsewhere, with these I am going to give those a little bit of thickness to the left and the bottom here, just to increase that idea that these are actually dimensional and they stick up. So no matter how somebody adds colour, that idea will persist. we have flecks of something. That's a bit better, sticking up. And then what I'm going to do here, coming out of this, I'm going to pop in one of my globe shaped, I suppose, couple of them, those kinds of mushrooms, just to fill some space in and to change the size and variety of things we've got going on here. So there's something of interest. And just pops a few dots in, just for interest, no more than anything else. So there's that collection here. And I think I'm going to add some more of these shapes in here. Just to finish this area off. Like so. And then it's time to perhaps add some other kinds of things that grow here. So I think I'm going to do some shapes like this, almost like cloud shapes, almost. But then I'm going to extend the points here downwards to create a texture that looks like leaves, or a suggestion of foliage of some kind sticking up. Nice and easy. And you can see that I've curved the lines to give some idea that these sort of bend backwards a little bit, but there's some dimension to them, and they're easy enough to stack up and to do other things with. But I am going to tell you what I do need to do is over here. I've got these gaps here where this stem would come down, and if I try to pop that stem in, it's going to get very confusing. So I am going to pop some of these circular shapes again, whether they're seeds or little pebbles or little drops of dew or magic. Could be magic drops. I don't know what magic drops look like, but you know, we can have them in our drawing. Just to fill that area in, then I don't have to worry about trying to make sense of that stem. Because this could be growing on top of a, you know, some kind of stone, or, you know, rise in the ground for all we know, and that just disguises what's there. Okay, so we've got some of that. So let me think. Well, I don't need to think, because as well as having my mushrooms out, I have this old book of mine. I've had this for a couple of years now, and in here I keep track of all kinds of things. Look, bugs, things. I collect drawings of things so that I've got something to refer to, and there's just so much in here. And you get glimpses of it and you'll think, oh my gosh, can't you do that? Can't you do this? It would take me a lifetime to take each one of these motifs and actually work with them. But I do use this to look at and go, right, okay, there's an idea. Because sometimes I've got so many ideas in my head that I can't pick one out. Okay, shall we? All right, so what I'm going to do here So I'm going to put leaves like this, sort of overlapping each other, and then we can add another layer so it looks a bit like a succulent. And then let's just get to the top of it, perhaps like so. That'll do. It doesn't have to be perfect, that's the point, because it's just the skeleton. And then to suggest these are leaves, I'm going to pop the veins in. Like so. I finished this. I've just heard my Able and Cold delivery being left on my doorstep, so I'm going to go and get that in, and I shall come back to this in a moment. Obviously you won't have a clue that I've gone anywhere else other than I've picked my pens up and put the lids on them. So I'll be back in a moment. There I am, back again. It's always nice to get that in quickly before the ants can get in, or curious cats. Not that there's anything that would interest cats, because I'm vegetarian. But then I've had some strange cats who like strange human food from time to time. So that's quite cute, this kind of succulent-y kind of thing. So I think I may just pop another one in here. It's funny how I draw one and then suddenly you think, oh, that's how I can improve it and how it looks. But no one would really know, because in nature things are varied in how they appear. And perhaps just a couple of smaller leaves right at the top just to finish it off. Again, I'm not trying to give it a pointed top or anything. It's just something that happens to be growing in my garden of mushroomly delights. Or fungal delights. No, that sounds bad. When we talk about fungal, it often reminds me of like fungal diseases or infections like athlete's foot, and yeah. But mushroom. My garden of mushroomly delights. And I've got a little gap at the end here, and I just think at the end here, I think it will be lovely just to finish this side off as I started the other side, with some curled up ferns perhaps. And the next one I'm going to have going around and behind this one, because I can. It looks a strange shape, but it's fine. It's so let me just have a look here, because we've got that gap there, which is a bit of a strange one between these two, but it'll work its way, because I'm going to follow this line up and put another ferny frond in there, just like that. And then I've got this gap here along the edge, so that works quite nicely. There we go. So I think you can see most of that. Yeah, that's the bottom area. So I'm going to pop, I'm just for a few minutes, I'm going to just pop some more mushrooms in here, and then I'm going to call the video a halt, because I need to do the rest of this. I also need breakfast and some other things. So later on today, hopefully I'll remember this time, I'll post the finished version of this with some colour on it, perhaps. Sneak peek on my, in the comment, not the comments, the community tab, so that you can have a look and see how it's looking. This looks very strange here. This pattern, it doesn't look quite as I'd like it to. and I'm trying to think how can I modify that. I might come back to that in a moment. So let's just draw some mushrooms. I'm going to do one that looks like it's got a little button on the top. Buttons are fun, I like buttons. And at the bottom here we're going to give it some almost like bat wing points, like so. And then I'm going to do this with a finer pen. I'll put the line in pencil, but I'm going, oh gosh, I've got a different pencil out. What am I doing? I'm going to just pop a line in here in pencil very lightly, because I'll want these lines to go up that far. And I'm going to start at the top of each of these arches. I'm going to try to follow the shape of the outside curve, sort of. But these lines need to come closer together as we get to the top. And these ones here will be that little bit straighter, but not entirely straight, because I want this feeling that it curves, you know, from here it goes up, down and back in. So I'm trying to curve the lines to suggest that. So curving inwards, out, back down and up. And then here I'm going to just pop in the hint of, there may be like a fold there, so we've got that kind of buttony shape, and I am going to just pop in a couple of marks there to suggest that as well. The stem on this one, I think it would come down from the top, and I think it's going to flare out just a little bit like that. And the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add some weighting, which means thickening the line to the left of these points. And I think I might actually put the suggestion of other pointed bits behind by drawing them in just like that. So you can see, not very well done, but I think that will just perhaps be a little bit, yeah, maybe I will just pop a couple of lines in them just to help that idea that they're behind. That pushes them right back. Awkward to colour, but if you're going to colour those in, treat that whole shape as one. Use a translucent colour, or if you use opaque, just colour over them. You're not going to upset me, honestly. And in this area here, I think I can just sneak in another one of these shapes, as if it's just stuck in here a little bit. I like using odd numbers of things in my drawings, but here I don't know whether anybody's going to notice there's a group of 4, to be honest. But what I can do to satisfy my need for odd numbers of things is just draw another stem in. It almost appears as if it's connected to this one somehow. I don't always pay attention to making sense of things. Yeah, we just need a couple of dots on this side. You know, but if I can get a stem to sort of like line up with another one, so we haven't got too many going on underneath and it gets confusing because you've just got lines there, then I like to do that. Right, let me go back to this one before I do anything else. These do look a bit odd, and I'm not quite sure what I could do about them in some ways, but I think I'll go back to my favourite thing, which is just adding a loop inside them. So it splits these areas up that little bit. I'm conscious that I need to make these spaces big enough, both outside and inside them, for somebody to add colour. But I also know that I can suggest to people that they might want to just treat them as if they're one space. And here on the outside I can't do anything, so I'm just going to do that. That feels better, but it still doesn't feel right to me. But it is what it is, and it may look a lot better with colour in. The chances are that it will. Okay, so let's have a look here, because I am going to pop some other mushrooms in. So we've got one here that's got quite a bulbous bottom, and it's going to have quite a tiny little top, and it's going to go behind this one. It's not a tiny little top, but it's long and thin, and I'm quite happy for this one to be behind that one, because it does look as if it's sort of like bending off towards somewhere. It's a strange shape, but then, as I've said, they can grow in. No two mushrooms are shaped exactly the same. We draw them, we're drawing, you know, unless you're doing an observational drawing of a particular mushroom, then they are going to end up looking pretty much the same. That is weird. I'm going to draw this in again. That line will disappear because I will remove it I'll remove it once I've scanned it in. So that feels a bit better. I'm trying to envisage it. I know what the problem is. I haven't taken this out enough. Beauty of digital art, I can erase that and nobody will know that I've erased it. So you've seen me in action. Looks a mess, but it won't be when it comes to printing it out and everything. It saves on using things like white ink or whiteout and Tipp-Ex and other stuff, or cutting the paper out and replacing it. It used to be the old way of doing things, and I'm just thinking, nope, not going to happen. Nope, not going to do it. Nope, not me. So perhaps I'll put a couple of these in and let's draw them the way I'd like them to be. This one though, I'm not going to have us looking inside the gill a little bit. I'm going to have it like that. That's nice. And it's not perfect on this side, and I'm not worried about that. That one just looked too odd for me to be comfortable with leaving it there. There we go, so that'll be all right there. And perhaps just a baby one. Perhaps sneaked in behind. Or perhaps not that much of a baby one. It's sleeping, it's couched up against the other one beside it. Just some shadow at the bottom here. That one I'll have to do later on because I'll end up wiping stuff out that I need to replace otherwise. And well, yeah, it's beginning to come along. How I'm going to add things to this space? Well, I can just continue adding mushrooms, or I could add flowers, which could be quite fun. Just flipping through my book, I'm looking for some flowers. I've got loads of flowers I can use, haven't I? I've been drawing them over a series of videos, over, forever. But I think I'll put perhaps my last little bit here this morning. I'm thinking about putting a spike of flowers here, or some yeah, what do I want to pop here? Put the flower center in. I'm going to put 4 circles, smaller circles, fairly equally spaced around here, but it doesn't matter if they're not. And then I'm going to draw the petals in. I'm going to make these petals heart-shaped. Got two things I love to draw here: mushrooms and flowers. I am going to add a circle in the centre of that, and then I can add a stem in. How do I want the stem to go? I think I want it to go this way, and then that can disappear behind this mushroom. But I can also pop some leaves on, like so, just so it looks like a stem. And here I'm going to just put a smaller version of the petal shape inside it, like so. And that's the start of adding perhaps some flowers up above this. I'll just do another one. And again, I'm going to pop these on. They help to space the petals quite nicely, but it also gives the opportunity to add, I think with these I am going to add some petals in between, because I had a lot of empty space here, and I just think it'd be nice just to fill that in. Have really pretty flowers. So remembering where I, just thinking about how big these are and if they're going to tuck behind the other flower, which this one will. And I can draw them like this. I'm going to fill these gaps in with top of a heart shape and do the same thing here. Here I can give that feeling, oops, that's an odd shaped one, but again, it's fine if they're a bit wobbly and wonky. Whimsical charm. And again, I've got a stem here that I can hide behind the mushroom. I actually want that line to join there, I think. And another leaf there. So this is as far as I've got. And hopefully I'll get this done after I've had breakfast. And I'll add some colour and so on to it and show this in the community tab as well as around my social media. I do give a sneak peek each week. In fact, I may scan this in, add some colour to this, and as a sneak peek so nobody gets to see what the rest of it is. Now that's sneaky of me. It is. See what I do. But I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope it's given you some ideas of how you can use the mushrooms with other things. You'd be quite within your rights if you wanted to put all the same kind of, foliage or stones or whatever at the bottom. That's your prerogative. Do as you like. I like to vary it because it gives that variation of opportunity to use lots of different colours and to vary things and to change things. And the same with the mushrooms. There'll be more mushrooms that'll be at the top, growing. I might have some growing down, defying gravity, because it's my world and they can grow wherever they like, or perhaps some just appearing from the sides as if their stems are off here somewhere. Not sure about that one, but we'll see how it goes. And I'm not going to worry too much about this one unless I decide digitally to alter it, which I can. I could just turn it into simple stripes and I might do that. So thank you for joining me. I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope it's given you some inspiration as to what you could possibly do with your mushrooms and flowers and other things you may have picked up from me or you've got of your own. And I look forward to seeing you again here. Until we see each other again, take care. Bye for now. Bye.